You're listening to What Matters on Radio Castledermot with John Finan.
I'm delighted, first of all, to be joined here this evening by our local sergeant, Steve Mulqueen, and the chairperson of the Castledermot Community Alert, Jim Finan. You're very welcome, lads. Again, we're here today in conjunction with O'Gorman Meats, and they're proud sponsors of Radio Castledermot.
O'Gorman Meats, your local winning butchers, serving the local community for generations, and proud to sponsor Radio Castledermot.
Okay, now we'll get the show on the road. So I'm going to start off with you, Steve. Steve is like I said, he's our local sergeant, and you're in Castledermot nearly 4 years now, Steve.
That's right, John. Yeah. Thanks very much for having me on the show. First time, so I'm delighted to be here. Thanks a million.
That's great, and it's great actually to have you here and to be sharing some of the information we're going to share here this evening with our listeners. So again, like I say to everybody every week, we have listeners not only from Castledermot, but we have listeners all over Ireland and in America and in Spain, Australia, New Zealand. So the information that we get here, a lot of it tonight especially, is just associated with Castledermot, but it can also be applicable to your own communities in wherever you're actually living. So Steve, I'm going to start off, and maybe you just might share with our listeners some of the figures on burglaries in Castledermot, say, in the last 12 months, and maybe compare them over the previous 12 months and say, how are we doing really in the town? Yeah.
Okay, John, so I think we're lucky enough in Castledermot in that this year, so far, we've had roughly 7 burglaries there, which compares very favourably to last year. Last year was slightly higher, and that was coming out of COVID, so it's hard to kind of put a ballpark figure on it. But so far, we've had about 7 burglaries. And what I would say about this year is that, and people will be surprised to hear, is that most of our burglaries are happening late evening, which is up until around 9 p.m. in the evening. And so I think, generally speaking, people's perception of a burglary is that it's someone who comes into their house in the middle of the night, maybe while they're in bed. And generally speaking, that is not the case. Most of the burglaries are occurring during the day, late evening, and it's when people are not at home. And I just went through the figures there today, and most of them actually happened between, we'll say, 2 to 9 p.m. And that's kind of consistent with what the national figures would be. The national figures would be about 40% of burglaries happen between 5 p.m. and 9 p.m. It's slightly down compared to last year, but last year for the same period it was around 10. But unfortunately, from this period on now, where it starts to get darker, and particularly with the hour going to go back next week, and Christmas coming up, burglaries do tend to increase. So there is an awful lot of things that people can do actually.
Okay, so basically, where we are at the minute is in Castledermot, our burglaries are down slightly on where they were last year.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, but we're now coming into what, if we want to call it, for want of a better word, our busy time for burglaries.
Yeah, correct.
Okay, so what Steve is going to do now, folks, is he's going to let us know what can we do to try to prevent these burglaries. Because I think, Steve, it's probably, some of it is probably common knowledge, but it's something that everybody can actually do themselves at home.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I mean, there is a Garda phrase, we kind of say lock up and light up, and it's simple enough, and you'd be surprised at the amount of burglaries that occur where maybe there's a window left open or a door left open, and like, I do it myself. If you go to collect the kids, you're going to be 10 minutes down the road, and you think, sure, look, it'll be all right, leave the back door open, but in the meantime, in those 10 minutes, somebody's been in and out of your house, you know. So that the main thing is always lock your doors and windows when you're leaving your house. And the other thing is that lights, like burglars hate lights, you know, so coming into dark evenings there, security lights are great. When as soon as they enter your house or enter your garden, the light comes on. They just don't like it, and they tend to try and move on. So lights and lock up. And we call that target hardening, and that you're making it harder for them to get into your house. There's also simple things like most burglaries, really, they're opportunists, and we're not talking about somebody breaking into your house because you have an expensive car outside. That's a different thing. But if you can lock your windows make it easy or make it harder for a burglar to get into your house. Like, don't leave maybe a deck chair or a coal bunker underneath your window where they can climb up and climb in, or get someone to climb in your the small portion of your window. So make it harder for them to do it, and we call that then removing the means to commit the crime. Like, you see, some people will leave their green bin underneath their window, but that's actually something that a burglar can use to actually climb up and get into your house. So
all right, folks, do you hear that? Move the bins away from the window.
Move the bins away. And the other thing some people you can do is as well, like a hedge around the house. Electric gates are all great, but the thing is, if a burglar can get into your house and he can't be seen by anybody, he has as much time to do what he wants, because you can't be seen by your neighbours and you can't be seen from the main road. So maybe consider actually lowering your hedge to a height where if someone gets in over their hedge, they can be seen from the road, and it makes it a lot harder for them.
Okay, I hope the good Mrs. Phelan up in Ballyvass is listening to this.
And then I suppose that the other thing is then increase the chances of being caught. And really, like, CCTV for us is great, because especially for rural crime, where houses are on their own, burglars they're able to get in, they're able to get around without being seen because there's nobody there during the day. But if the CCTV, that really helps us in trying to catch them, So, and there's great things out at the moment there. The doorbell, the cameras, they're about 40 quid. You can buy them, and someone comes to your door, sends a text message to your phone, and you can see who's at your door. So they're all great things that can be got,
All right, yeah. And I suppose, Steve, as well, if if you're going to be away from your home for a couple of days or even for a day, it's probably a good idea just to, if you have a neighbour there that you trust, and hopefully we all trust our neighbours, but just to let them know, so if they see any activity in around your property, to know it's not going to be you.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, and obviously, then if they do see somebody, then they can give you a shout, whatever. But there's also things you can do, like you can get those lights. I don't know what you call, but they're automatic lights. They come on and off. So if a burglar passes your house at say 5 o'clock and there's no light on, and 10 minutes later he comes by and there's a light on, he thinks there's someone in there.
Yes. Yeah.
You can leave a car out at your house. Get your neighbour maybe to move it around if you're gone for a few days. If you have bins that have to be collected, don't leave the bins out for the full week, because it's an obvious sign that if bins are collected on a Monday and the bins are still there on a Friday, there's assumption there that you'll be gone. So the small things you can do, and your neighbour can help you out.
Yeah. Okay, folks. So we hear it there, from Steve. A lot of that, when Steve says it, it is sort of common sense. And I suppose if we can all make that extra bit of an effort, it's going to make Steve's job and the Gardaí's job a bit easier. But also, it's a simple way of securing our own properties. And, you don't have to go in with expensive CCTV, like Steve said there. There's some of these doorbells with the cameras attached, and we can pick them up, quite cheap in different hardwares and all different things like that. And I know some people also, we can get the CCTVs, in, and we do have somebody here in the locality who looks after that as well. Steve, just can you tell us a bit about, there's a new app out, I think it launched in around the ploughing time.
That's correct.
And it's the Garda Síochána property app.
Yeah, that's correct. So, like, a lot of times when the Gardaí, when we do recover equipment that has been stolen in a van, a lot of times we actually can't find out who the owner is, and so we can't actually relocate it back to the owner. So there has been a new app launched, and you can download it on Google Play and on the iPhone. And what it does is you can record your property on the system, and in the event that it's stolen, you can actually go through the system as well and inform us, and we're able to, if we come across it, there's a unique code on it that we can actually identify who owns it and hopefully return it to you. All
right, and I think Tomas is after putting up the app there on screen for everyone, and we will share the link on our Facebook page there later on as well. And so just while we're still on theft and burglaries and that, farm burglaries, I suppose, is fairly high on the spectrum as well, especially a place like Castledermot, and we're so rural. And just a couple of things, I suppose, and yourself and myself were just talking about this earlier, and we'll start off with the theft of tractors. And you just have a very simple question for people to think about there just for a couple of seconds, and then you'll give them the answer.
Yeah, that's right, John. So I have a kind of some information here. We have a crime prevention officer. He's based in Naas, and he's given me some statistics here, and you'd be surprised to hear them. I think that, for example, how many tractors are stolen with the key? And there's three answers. There's 3/4, there's 1/3, or there's 1/6. So I think people will be surprised to hear.
So how many tractors are stolen with the key?
From farms.
From farmyards. Okay, so 3/4?
3/4, 1/3, or 1/6.
Okay, have a quick think about it. You needn't send in the message or anything else, just have a quick think about it. And now Steve is going to give us the answer.
So it's 1/3.
So 1/3 of tractors, folks, all our farmers out there listening, or anyone who knows a farmer, 1/3 of the tractors stolen in this country are stolen with the keys in them. Just think about it.
Correct. Yeah.
We have a similar question about vans on farmyards, Steve.
Yeah, so again, what statistic of vans, or what percentage of vans stolen from the farms are stolen with the key?
So percentage of vans stolen from farmyards with the key sitting in the ignition, making it nice and handy for the nice little burglar coming up along the lane or across the field, and nice and handy for him. Oh God, look at this. What's the question? What's the answers?
So would you believe 3/4 of vans stolen from farms are stolen with the key?
3/4, 75%, folks. That's nice and handy for the lad coming across the field or coming up the lane, all right. And I think another popular item stolen from farms is quads.
Quads, yeah. So would you believe 1/6 of quad bikes are stolen with the key from farms?
1/6 of quad bikes.
Yeah.
And all these things, folks, they don't come cheap, you know, so...
Yeah.
And I suppose as well, you know, as well as people leaving the keys in the vans and all that, another thing is people, when they're locking up at night and have their car locked outside, and next thing they come in and they have a lovely little hallway table, and on the hallway table they plop the keys down.
Yeah, and I don't have statistics on it, but there was a fair amount of vehicles stolen in 2021, where there was a technique anyway called phishing, where there was a kind of rod put through the letterbox and the keys are picked up and taken back out, you know. And it does make it very easy, where if someone comes into your home, that they can actually, the keys are on the worktop there, and now I suppose some people might argue that, look, it saves the burglar having to ransack your house, but also if he looks in the window and can see it there, it's very tempting for him.
Yes,
he just has to get in and get it, you know.
Yeah. No, I wasn't looking for the figures on that. It was just basically putting it in people's minds as well. Yeah. You know, just not to make the job easy for the burglars. Yeah, right. You know, if you have a lovely 222 or 221, or even like myself, a 151 sitting in the yard, well. You know, you don't want to leave the keys there just to make it nice and handy for somebody just to come in and drive off in it.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
All right, we're going to move on now from the burglaries on to, I suppose it's known out there as cybercrime. We all know, folks, we've all got different text messages, emails. You know, you have your long lost uncle all the way out in the far parts of Africa, or other spots, or the son of this or the daughter of that, and maybe, and I know October is the European month of cybercrime, so you might just give us a little bit of information on that, what people can do, what they shouldn't do, etc.
Yeah, so like you were saying, John, this month is Cyber Security Month, and there is a website there, cybersecuritymonth.eu. And also on the Garda.ie website, there's an awful lot of information about how people and companies can protect themselves from cyber attacks and cyber crime. But the last year we've got an awful lot of calls from people who are concerned, and that they've had either phone calls, text messages, or emails from sources there that they wouldn't have known, and they're wondering what to do about it. And I suppose in terms of the emails, there's a name, it's called phishing, and it's usually where there's a mass amount of emails sent out to loads of, it doesn't have to be just one person, it could be an awful lot, and it's encouraging them to visit a website, say maybe like PayPal or Amazon or whatever, Netflix on post. And what it does is, it when you go into that fake website, you enter your details on it, then those details are recorded by this bogus company, and then they're able to obviously get access to whatever details they gave them, your bank accounts or whatever. So, like, our advice would be, first of all, to always report it to us. Anyway, sometimes, well, I said a lot of the cases, these are coming from outside the jurisdiction, but we would ask people to record it so we get an idea of how much of it is going on. But we would say is never ever, no organisation today is going to ask you to send your personal details to them by email, you know.
Yeah.
So any unsolicited emails like that, we would ask you to delete them and report them to us. You know?
Yep.
Just in terms, text messages is the same, and we all get. I get plenty myself on a weekly basis from, say, for example, courier companies pretending to be delivering a package, and they were looking for details, or else maybe on post saying that there's a package down the post office, and it might look like it's from on post, but it's not from on post. And again, they're looking for your details or your bank accounts, so they can try and take some money from your accounts. You know.
Yeah. And another thing that's going around, and it just happened to a good friend of mine, and just another hat that I wear when I'm involved with GAA. And a lot of times on the Facebook page, when GAA clubs and soccer clubs put up messages, you know, that there's a match, so there's a final, etc., etc. And you see these messages coming up now that live streaming, and asking you to click on the link, and next thing they get your bank details, and to be honest, like, there's very few clubs around will be live streaming, and if they are, they will be advertising, you know, themselves that they're going to be live streaming. And if somebody puts a message in underneath saying that it's live streaming, like, you know, just to be aware that more than likely it is a scam.
Yeah, good advice.
All right. We're going to move on, and I just want to ask you just very, very quickly about the Castledermot Community Alert and the link that the Gardaí have with the Community Alert, just before we move on to Jim.
Yeah, so there are a number of text alerts in the Castledermot area. There's Castledermot, Kilkee and Moon. The Castledermot text alert, Jim Finan is the chairman here beside me, and it was being, I suppose, revitalised in the last 4 years, and it's going strong. It was going strong before COVID, but like every other text alert in Ireland, it kind of took a hit during COVID, so we're just hoping to get it going again and getting people involved in it again.
All right. Listen, thanks a million, Steve. And,
thanks for having me.
you know, I think, folks, we got some great information there this evening from Steve. And if anybody has any quick questions, they want to throw them up on the screen, you know, we'll come back to Steve before he goes and seeing if he can answer them. There's nothing, you know, we're not going to go into any specific cases or anything like that. But just again, Steve, you know, thanks for taking your time to come in and talk to us this evening and to share the information with our listeners.
Thanks, John. Delighted to be here. Thanks a million.
Okay, now we're going to move over now to my next guest, and it's Jim Finan. And Jim is the chairperson of the Community Alert Group in Castledermot. But just before we do that, I'm just going to hit one button here and we'll see what will happen.
You're listening to What Matters on Radio Castledermot with John Finan. O'Gorman Meats, your local winning butchers, serving the local community for generations, and proud to sponsor Radio Castledermot.
Okay, Jim, you're very welcome. You're very welcome, Jim. Jim, you're the chairperson of Castledermot Community Alert. That's right, yeah?
That's correct, yeah.
And last Tuesday, Jim, you held your AGM, and I know from speaking to you, you know, there was a very poor turnout at your AGM.
That's correct, yeah, but I suppose part of the reason for that is the fact that the lack of criminal activity in itself allows for people to be a little bit more relaxed. I would say if we were very busy on the community alert, we probably would have had a bigger attendance.
Yes, yeah.
So from that point of view, the statistics for so far for this year is we've sent out, apart from the general messages to do with scamming and phishing, we sent out only less than a dozen text alerts this year.
All right, less than a dozen, and we're 10 months gone in the year, so that's probably really good, Jim, isn't it?
Yeah, that's very good. And generally it would be to do with suspicious activity, maybe a car driving around an estate or on a road, a couple of people in the car that mightn't be known to anybody and acting very suspiciously, or maybe somebody calling to a home asking for directions, or, you know, can they do this, can they do that, and they may be suspicious, and people then would report it to us, and we would then put a general text alert out to everybody.
All right, so I suppose, Jim, that leads me into it could be a very simple question, but for anybody out there who doesn't know what Castledermot Community Alert is, or, you know, it can be Kilkee Community Alert, Moon Community Alert, Chicago Community Alert, you know, can you just tell us, you know, what does your group do?
So I suppose the Community Alert is a safety program for rural areas with an emphasis on older and vulnerable people. And it operates in partnership with An Garda Síochána and Mulqueen. And it works on the principle of a shared responsibility for crime prevention and reduction. So throughout the country, there are over 1,250 community alerts set up, which is quite extraordinary. Yeah. It's all voluntary, and it's all basically for the vulnerable in the community. And it's all voluntary work.
All voluntary work, folks, and I'm sure, Jim, with our listeners listening out there, you could do with some more volunteers.
Yes, we could, but I suppose the fact that it's relatively quiet at the moment, and indeed when we rejuvenated it about 2 or 3 years ago, we did, and we were successful in getting a huge number of volunteers to help us to grow the amount of people who got involved in the scheme. And it's a very simple type of membership, I suppose. For those who are not on it or are not getting the messages by text, you need to contact ourselves directly, and for a very small fee of €10, we would send you out a text alert in the event of something happening in the area.
All right, so you've sort of preempted the next thing I was going to ask you, Jim, about the membership, because I know when it was rejuvenated that you had coordinators in different areas, and the coordinators went knocking on doors in their area to people that they knew and asking them, you know, if they wanted to sign up, etc., etc. So people who paid, it's probably, I'd say it's 3 years ago now, when people paid that €10, is that €10 still live, or, you know, are we going around collecting more money?
No, we're very, very healthy at the moment. We have about €5,000 in the bank account. We're also grant aided by Mulqueen and the government, where they would give us a grant every year to help us with the cost of running, in particular, the text alert.
All right.
So we're very healthy, but any new member, naturally enough, we would ask for a small fee of €10.
Yeah, so if somebody isn't getting the text alerts and they're wondering why, what they need to do is contact somebody from the committee, or if they know who their coordinator is in their area, contact them and we can put them in the right direction.
That's correct, yeah.
All right. And Jim, I think when we're talking about the community alert, and I don't think we can let the evening go by without thanking the late Jim Dunn, who I think set up the community alert originally. And after Jim, I know Seamus Dial up in Ballyvass ran the phone service for many years as well. So I think just we might just give the two of those lads just a mention as well tonight.
Yeah, fair. Yeah, that's very good, yeah.
You know, they're... So, Jim, I'm going to move on to, I suppose, a couple of more specific things. And we were talking there earlier about the 112 SMS service, and can you tell our listeners a bit about that, if you don't mind?
Yeah, I suppose for listeners who have friends, relatives who are perhaps visually impaired or hard of hearing, there is a service now, a 112 service, which allows the people who are of hearing or speech impaired persons who need, need assistance. So they would need to register on www.112.ie, register the phone number, and in the event of something happening, obviously if they're not able to vocally get the message across, they can send a text alert direct to the Gardaí. And this is specifically used, in the event of, I suppose I put down a few key points. One would be, obviously, if there's a life at risk, well then you would use that messaging service. If there's a crime being committed, if there's an incident actually currently happening, and then if somebody is in immediate danger, you would send out your text alert to 112.
All right, I think Tomas is just after throwing up an example of it there on the screen, so you can see, folks, what happens if you do send that text to 112, which is a great idea, really, and probably something that a lot of members of our community, could take advantage of. Jim, you mentioned there that you are linked or funded with Mulqueen Natira. And again, from the research that I was doing, they have an initiative out there called Bottle in the Fridge, or Message in a Bottle, something on those lines. Can you tell us a little bit, I suppose, about Mulqueen Natira and about that initiative that they have?
Yeah, well, I suppose Mulqueen Natira is a countrywide, effectively countrywide text alert, community alert, and community voluntary service, and they come out with different initiatives along the way, which then feeds into all of the local branches. And they brought out this very, very clever, I think, thing called Bottle in the Fridge, or Message in a Bottle. And effectively, you get a small little bottle, and inside in the bottle you have a leaflet, and on the leaflet you have all your personal details, who you are. You also put down any illnesses you have and any allergic reactions you have to medication, any allergies, your medication, your doctor details, your next of kin, your phone number, and so on. And this then is put into the fridge, and there's a little sticker then put outside on the fridge, so that in the event of an emergency, the ambulance crew or somebody calls, they will go to the fridge and they will be able to see the details and any ailments you have, and will be able to carry out an assessment based on all of the information that's in the fridge.
All right, and again, Thomas is working flat out here in the background, and he's just after putting up what that bottle actually looks like. And jumping back to our show 2 weeks ago, I think this is something that we can inform our first responders about as well, and that they can, be aware that this is a possibility out there. So when they do go in, especially if you go into an old person, and if you go in where, somebody could be in a lot of pain or distress, or somebody who has a stroke and can't communicate, that the information is actually there. And so it's a great initiative. So is this something, Jim, that you're hoping to try to push out in the community?
Well, obviously pre-COVID it was running very well, and we did get a lot of participants who took it up, and it's hoped that we would take it up again and get more people to actually take the bottle, but not just to take it and put it on a shelf, to actually fill in the details. There's no point in taking a bottle and taking a bottle for your friend or your neighbour unless you actually fill in the details. It's a complete waste of time, and just, you need to actually act on it if you get and take the bottle. Okay,
and Jim, you're going to have a stand at the Christmas fair here in Castledermot this year, so I presume anybody who wants information or the bottles, you might have them that day?
Yes, we will have a supply of bottles, and we'll also have a supply of other handy little things for the community, i.e., if somebody calls to the door, and rather than answer the door, they can sort of leave a card, or ask them to leave a card, which is available from the Garda in Síochána. We will have a number of these available for the community when they call.
Okay, Jim. Jim, thanks a million for coming in to us this evening, and again, thanks to Steve for coming in. And folks, like our programme title says, here in Radio Castledermot, and every second Monday night, we talk about what matters. And this evening, I think we've chosen our guests to bring some very useful facts and information with the two lads here beside me. And like I said as well, we have listeners outside of the area, so look up your own communities as well and see, is there a text alert in your area? I know, from living in the area, like a lot of people are relying on that text alert. And as well, if you're at home and you get a message that there's suspicious activity in the area, you are a lot more vigilant. So again, lads, thanks a million and thanks for coming in. And I'm going to let you go now, and you can have a cup of tea there or whatever, and we'll get ready for our next guests. But before we move on to our next guests, and just before the two lads go, and before we go on to a piece of music, we all love a little bit of a competition, don't we?
Answers to John's phone on 087 2265 103 to be in with a chance of winning one of our great prizes.
Okay, and tonight our competition is sponsored by O'Gorman Meats here in Castledermot, and I hope you're all listening to what Steve was saying earlier. So tonight's question, and just to make sure that you were listening, Steve told us that the most common time for burglaries in your home is up to what time? So what time is the most common burglaries up to? So it's from 2 o'clock to what time? So we all know what to do.
Answers to John's phone on 087 2265 103 to be in with a chance of winning one of our great prizes. O'Gorman Meats, your local winning butchers, serving the local community for generations and proud to sponsor Radio Castledermot.
Okay, folks, just going to go into a song here now, and just to keep us going until our next guest, Mark Wall, comes in. So just bear with us. Thank you very much.
Riley, in Dublin I was born, and for my bad behaviour I was forced to cross the foam. On the day that I departed, I kissed my mother dear, and I promised to remember to always hold her near. With me bundling on my shoulder, my shillelagh in my hand, for to ramble the bushes of Australia like a true-born Irishman. And the wind being in our favour, we raise our sails with glee, and we give three hearty cheers, me boys, going down the Irish Sea. We give three hearty cheers, me boys, going down the Irish Sea. And on the 11th day of April, we landed in Portmagee. With me bundling on my shoulder, my shillelagh in my hand, for to ramble the bushes of Australia like a true-born Irishman. Old Melbourne, the ladies danced with joy. Says one of them to the other, here comes that Irish boy. And some they drank from glasses, and some they drank from cans, and we sang and danced all around the house to the health of this Irishman. With me bundling on me shoulder, me shillelagh in me hand, for to ramble the bushes of Australia like a true-born Irishman. The mother to her daughter, I cannot understand why you're going to wear this Irish boy all the way from Paddy's land. Says the mother to her daughter, sure I do the best I can, for to ramble the bushes of Australia with me true-born Irishman. With me bundling on me shoulder, me shillelagh in me hand, for to ramble the bushes Irishman. With me bundling on me shoulder, me shillelagh in my hand. Part around the bushes of Australia like a true-born Irishman.
Okay, you're very welcome back, folks, and that was Castledermot's very own Michael English, so I hope you all enjoy that. I'm joined here now... Sorry, folks. I'm joined here now by a very good friend of mine who's been a friend of mine for many years, and we've met, I suppose, through our parents and also through football. So we said if we got stuck for things to talk about tonight, we're going to revert to football, Mark.
Absolutely, John.
Mark Wall, folks, Senator Mark Wall, and Mark has deep roots here in Castledermot with his father, Jack, being a proud Castledermot man, even though I think Castle Mitchell has claimed him at this stage. So you're very welcome, Mark.
Thanks, John. Delighted to be here. Well done to everybody. I'm absolutely thrilled to be here with you tonight.
Okay, Mark, what we're going to talk about tonight is, I suppose, some benefits that people can claim. We all know that we're coming into the winter and things, our energy costs are going up, cost of living is going up, and everything else along with it is going up. And I suppose what we're trying to do, folks, is for Mark just to give us some information on different benefits that are out there, different schemes that are out there that can help. And the first thing that I'm going to ask you about, Mark, is if you can run through with our listeners what extra benefits have been introduced in the budget 2023, which happened there earlier this month.
Yeah, John, very important, I suppose, that people are aware. And we get a lot of queries, and I'm sure Radio Castledermot are getting a lot of queries of those payment dates as well. So in general, there was a €12 increase for core payments and social welfare, but they actually won't come into play until January. But some important dates actually before them. So from November the 1st, there's going to be a double child payment, and then on week commencing the 14th of November, a number of different payments. And just to run through those for your listeners, there will be a €500 once-off payment for disability support grants, a €400 fuel allowance lump sum, again a once-off payment, a €500 for those that qualify for work and family payments. That, of course, will be a once-off lump sum, and then €200 a lump sum again, and a once-off payment for those who are living alone, and that will be paid on week commencing the 14th of November. And then on week commencing the 21st of November, the carers who play such an important role for us all in all our communities, John, they will get a once-off payment of €500. And then the annual Christmas bonus will be paid again this year, which is important for all those that are entitled and obviously get it. And that will come into play on the 5th of December. So those are the dates. As I said, a lot of queries as to when that will happen, John, but important for those people that qualify for those payments, and those are the dates that they will receive them on.
All right, thanks a million, Mark. So, folks, Mark went through them there very quickly, and all the different dates. And I know that information, folks, if you're looking for it, is also available. It's a very good website, is Citizens Information.
Excellent.
So, if you can have a look at it there, or again, if people want, you can listen back to this show. Any stage will be up on Facebook, and you'll get those dates. You mentioned there in the middle of all that a lump sum for the fuel allowance, Mark, but the actual fuel allowance itself, the Minister mentioned in his speech about changes to the fuel allowance from January 2023. Could you Explain a bit of that to us.
Yeah, absolutely. And fuel allowance is a very important payment, John, for so many people. And it also it entitles you to other issues, and maybe we might talk about those in a few minutes in relation to the warmer home scheme. But the fuel allowance itself has increased from €120. It's a means-tested payment, and it was traditionally €120 above the state pension, and that's the most important point. You're entitled to your state pension, and then you could receive a private pension, which after working so many years, so many people do, and up to a point of €120. That's been increased to €200 from January, but also, and importantly, for those that are over 70, if you're a single person and you're over 70, that has gone up to €500, and if you're a married couple, that goes up to €1,000. So those are important changes for fuel allowance, and obviously, as you mentioned in your introduction, as we face into a fuel crisis and the winter, indeed, they're important changes that will come in place in January. So from 120 up to 200 for all those that are entitled to fuel allowance, and with effect from January. And then for those that are over 70, that for a single person it would be €500, and for those that are married up to €1,000. And those are very important changes, and will bring a lot of people into a fuel allowance that previously didn't receive it, John.
All right, Mark. That's like you said there. There is huge changes there for the fuel allowance, and bringing people in who didn't, I suppose, fall into the criteria. So I suppose people out there who have been refused before, they should be, getting the forms, or I suppose they can contact somebody like yourself to, to give them a hand if they need to.
Yeah, absolutely, and there is a big demand for that at the moment, because a lot of people were waiting for changes in the budget, and thankfully those have happened. So what I would advise people is maybe to hold off a week or two, because there's a big backlog there at the moment that we're being told. So it is in January when those changes will come into effect. So over the next couple of weeks, maybe in December, to contact your public representative and get that form. And every public representative will help you, as we all do, and try to help as many people as we can, John. So, but a very important change is coming in January, and people should make an application. As you said, so many people were previously refused fuel allowance. January's changes are going to bring a lot of people into that net, and I would encourage everyone to make an application.
Okay, folks, you heard it there as well, folks. You can contact any of your public representatives, and I know here in Castledermot, we're very, very lucky to have so many hard-working public representatives between our councillors, our TDs, and our senator. So don't be afraid to pick up the phone. You all know who they are, and make contact with them. Mark, I suppose an extension of the fuel allowance, and you mentioned it there about the warmer home scheme installation. I suppose there is people out there that hasn't a clue what you're talking about. There are probably people who do. So could you maybe just explain a bit what that's about? Yeah,
we're hearing a lot about insulation, John, over the last number of weeks and indeed years. And there is a very good grant for those that are in receipt of fuel allowance. It's called the Warmer Home Scheme, and the reason it's a very good grant is it's free, and any grant that's free is very welcome, as we all know.
It is.
If you qualify for fuel allowance, and there are other issues as well, that if you're a long-term disability payment and you have a child under 7, you may also qualify. But the criteria is built around the fuel allowance, and the Warmer Home Scheme is free. And what happens then is that a contractor, once you apply, will come out. They will investigate your home. They will go through all that's needed as regards from an insulation point of view, and then the work is done by a registered contractor. And unfortunately at the moment there's a waiting list. But I would encourage again people to qualify, or to make an application, should I say, because once you get into the system, you're in the system. And I've had people who suddenly have got that call, a number of months later, that there's somebody going to call to them, and when that work is done, it makes a huge difference to your house. So that's one scheme, and that's for those there. And then there's another scheme from SEAI, which we call locally, I suppose, the 40% grant, where you can get a grant of up to 40% for different works around your house, insulation, etc. So again, some good grants there, and people may not be aware of them. And again, using the power of community radio here in Castledermot to get that message out, John.
All right, thanks a million, Mark. So we have a completely free grant. Completely free. If you're getting the fuel allowance, you can get the Warmer Home Scheme installation. It's completely free. And then if you don't qualify for that, there is the other grant there, which is the 40% grant, like Mark said, that all our local representatives refer to it as. So again, folks, you can contact any of our local representatives in the area, and they'll have information on those. And I know a lot of our representatives, they hold offices throughout and here in the community centre as well. Mark, I'm going to move on, I suppose, to another question, and housing grants. Can you tell us a little bit, I suppose, about housing grants? And
yeah, this is something that personally through our own office we deal an awful lot with a lot of people from Castledermot and the surrounding areas, and indeed South Kildare, John. There are 3 grants with Kildare County Council at the moment. It's a housing aid grant, it's the first grant, and under that grant you can qualify to get your windows, your electrical repairs, etc. A lot of people use it for roof repairs, and there's a grant there of up to €8,000 at the moment for people who own their own homes, and this is the most important part on this one. If you own your own home, you can qualify for the grant. In relation to windows and doors, you have to be over 66, so in other words, qualify for the state pension. And Kildare County Council are very adamant on that they will not give the windows and doors grant unless you are 66. But for works like in roofs, etc., roof repairs, that they will look at people who are under 66, but just for the windows, they're adamant that it's only those over 66. So you make an application through what's called the housing aid grant, and then, after a period of time, which are taking, roughly 4 to 5 months at the moment. I know that for some heating grants it's a small bit longer at the moment. People, a representative of the council will come out and investigate the works to be done, and then you get a letter then after that to say that you can go ahead with the work. So that's the housing aid grant for those that own their own home, and a grant of up to €8,000. And again, John, it's something that people are not fully aware of, and as I say, we do a lot of grants, but it's normally through word of mouth, should I say, that people actually become aware of these grants. So again, it's great to get that message out this evening. The other grants quickly then is a mobility grant, which is say for a ramp for those that need that, or stair lift, which is also very important for those maybe in a 2-storey house. They need help with a stair lift, and that grant is available too. And then the other one then, which is open to all people who own their own houses, what's called the housing adoption grant. These are means tested grants, but they're very good grants, and you can qualify for an extension to your house if so needed, if the person that's in your house or a loved one has that disability that requires that. That involves an OT call into your house. So once you make an application, Kildare County Council will send their occupational therapist to your house. They'll examine what the house is and what the disability is within the house, and then they will make recommendations from there. But 3 very good grants, and again, just trying to get the message out there that they're available, and just contact, as I said, your public representative. As I say, it's probably the most important grant that we do through our office, John, and it gets people's quality of life, and this is what we're talking about. It's quality of life for people, and it improves it immensely.
yeah, I suppose that is it, improving quality of life. And I know, again, with putting on another hat I have with the first responders, and I know, we do get calls to some older people, and that grant, the windows and door grant, as you refer to it as, there's a lot of people out there that probably, could use it, could avail of it, and would also, it'd really help with the insulation in the houses, especially, coming into the winter months.
Yeah, we have so many people who live in old cottages, etc., around the outskirts of Castledermot that would benefit them. The qualifying criteria is over 66, but once you become that age, and people will be talking about their parents and grandparents, and that's who should be qualifying for those grants. And as I say, contact us or any public representative. We'll get the form to you and we'll help you then through the process. All
right, listen, thanks a million on that, Mark. I'm going to move on, Mark, to another question, and I suppose it's something that I know from just talking to people in the area, it's always coming up in conversation when you're out and about. But social housing, and I suppose applying for social housing in Kildare, can you maybe guide us through a bit of that?
Yeah, of course, John. Housing is a huge issue for South Kildare. It's a huge issue for people in Castledermot, and I'm sure there's many of your listeners tonight who are looking for housing, because it's the #1 issue that I deal with on a daily basis. 60 to 70% of the work that I do every day is in relation to housing. Kildare County Council have a social housing policy. It is again, it's a means tested payment, but roughly the qualifying criteria is €36,500. So if you're earning less than €36,500, you will qualify for Kildare County Council's social housing list. Now, unfortunately, that list is expanding day by day, but also by qualifying on that list, you'll be entitled to what's called HAP, or rent allowance, which will allow you to rent some properties. The problem that we have, and we all know, and every public representative speaks about, is the lack of supply at the moment, John, and that's a huge issue. But in order to get a start on the social housing ladder, you need to look at that our application form. Again, any public representative will help you with it, and there's a process then to be followed through that you have to provide a certain amount of information to Kildare County Council to get onto their list. Obviously, one of the issues then is those that are earning more than that. There's a number of new schemes coming out, like cost rental. The nearest one that we have here to Castledermot would be in Kildare Town, where you actually qualify for a reduced rent on the house that you may apply for. And you know, these are different schemes that are coming out. We're encouraging, you know, in my own party that these schemes are rolled out quicker, John. So that's where it's at the moment. There's a number of schemes. So again, anybody that needs to talk about housing, you know, we're more than open, and I'm sure, as I've said already, every public representative would be in a position to talk to you about it as well.
Okay, so again, I think all our public representatives, folks, could be busy after this, because contact them as well about the social housing. And I suppose it is true, you know, like if we want anything, we've put public representatives in office. We voted for them, they're in office, and they're there to work for us, to help us. So don't be afraid to pick up the phone, call into their offices and just ask the questions, because they are there to help. That's you know, their job really. We had Jim and Steve here with us, and I suppose one of the last things, Mark, I'm going to ask you about, because you know, we were talking about burglaries, we were talking about the vulnerable and that. Is there any assistance out there that for putting in burglar alarms or anything like that in people's houses?
I listened to Jim and Steve earlier on your programme, and they were excellent as always, John. Like, there is a scheme there. Like, we introduced the councillors, and you are right, that's what councillors and public representatives are there for. But a number of years ago, we introduced a scheme here just for the Athy MD, of which obviously Castledermot is part of, for a burglar alarm for older people. And the qualifying criteria for that, again, is those that are over 66, because as the lads outlined, they're probably the most vulnerable within our community. So there is a €500 grant there to put in a house or a house alarm. This is not the panic alarm that we speak about as well, but this is actually a house alarm. So there's actually an application form that, again, public representatives or through our own office, you can apply. And it's very good value at the moment. The house alarms prices are coming down, thankfully, so you can qualify up to €500, and that allows you to get an alarm and also maybe a bit of monitoring on it as well in the first year. And as Jim will tell you, and surely as Steve will tell you, and we hear from the Garda representatives, burglars will pass a house where they see a house alarm, and that's a fact, and that's known through the Garda network. So it's a very good grant, and again, we get a lot of questions in relation to you know, people who are trying to look after their grandfather, their grandmother, their elderly mother and father. Is there any such alarm? And the answer here in the Athy MD is that there really is, John, and the councillors have put that in place. So again, there is an application form there. It's not fully utilised, which is good news, meaning that there is money there for this year. So if people want to make an application for a burglar alarm, a house alarm, then they should get on to us as quickly as possible.
Sorry about that. Technical hitch. I wasn't trying to shut you up, Mark.
I thought I was going to have to dance there, John, or something for you.
I was moving Fuzzy's mouse and I wasn't doing anything.
Singing as always, Fuzzy.
That's it. Yeah. Listen, Mark, thanks a million for coming in, Mark, and thanks for sharing that information with us. Folks, my next guest, and I know I hadn't got him advertised, but I'm going to have Peter Behan here in a few minutes, so just stay tuned, Wes. Stay with us while I take let Mark go. But don't forget to keep sending in your answer to the question, and
answers to John's phone on 087 2265 103 to be in with a chance of winning one of our great prizes.
So don't forget, the question was, up to what time is the most popular time for burglars to come in and have a little look around your house? It's from such time, 2 o'clock, 5 o'clock, up to what time. So answers by text or WhatsApp into my phone 087 226 5103. Just going to give you a little bit of Alistair Fingleton here now while I let Mark go and get Peter in. And John.
I remember 62. I was 16 and so were you when we lived next door on the avenue. Jerry Lee was big and Elvis too. Blue jeans and blue suede shoes, and we never knew what life held in store. We just wanted to rock and roll forevermore. We were the rock and roll kids. Rock and roll was all we did. And listening to those songs on the radio. I was yours and you were mine. That was once upon a time. Now we never seem to rock and roll anymore. Now Johnny's in love with a girl next door. Mary's down at the record store. They don't want to be around us no more. Golden oldies, but we hardly speak. Too busy running to a different beat. Hard to understand. We were once like them. How I wish we could find those rock and roll days again. We were the rock and roll kids. Rock and roll was all we did. Listening to those songs on the radio. I was yours and you were mine. That was once upon a time. Now we never seem to rock and roll anymore. I was yours and you were mine. That was once upon a time. Now we never seem to rock and roll. Now we never seem to rock and roll. Now we never seem to rock and roll anymore.
O'Gorman Meats, your local winning butchers, serving the local community for generations and proud to sponsor Radio Castledermot. You're listening to What Matters on Radio Castledermot with John Finan.
Okay, folks, you're very welcome back and thanks for staying with us. And last call here now just to get your answers in to my phone, 087 226 5103. It's up on the screen there. So, you know, what's the ending time for the burglars to come knocking on your house, knocking on the door? Just send them in, text or WhatsApp, 087 226 5103. Yeah, the number is on the screen there over my head and over Peter's head. So, Peter, you're very welcome and thanks a million for coming in this evening.
Yes, John. I'm not happy though. I got trouble 5 when I arrived. The guards were here and I've no tax on my Jeep.
Is that the one that's for sale outside?
No, but that has the same problem. Thanks very much for having us. I suppose we're here to talk about the charity auction this coming weekend, Sunday the 30th, here in the centre.
Yeah, so it's an auction this Sunday. And can you tell our listeners, Peter, why is there an auction on in Chairperson this Sunday?
Well, we're on the go here about 10 years, and the room rental, the people using facilities have paid for the upkeep, for the heat and the light. But as every household knows, the price of these services has gone through the roof, and the size of this building here, for the last couple of months we've been running at a loss, and we just have to do something to rectify that. We can't turn back to the groups that use the facilities. We can't up their rates because they're, like every other business or household, they're struggling as well. So we came up with this idea just to run a charity auction. The businesses in the town, they always step up to the mark. So we have at this moment of time around 65 pledged from vouchers for the local businesses. We have loads of turf, we have loads of sticks, we have hampers, we have, as I say, vouchers for every business, and a lot of the ones in Carlow. I am sort of slow to name the individual businesses because we can't go on it. We have an interesting one came in today, a painting from a local artist that she's doing very well, Elsie. So that, hope we have a 4-ball for Kilkee Castle. There's a load of
a great variety, so something for everybody.
Exactly.
And if somebody wanted to donate something for the auction, Peter, any of our listeners out there, how can they go about it?
Well, they could ring the centre here or put something up on our Facebook, the Chairperson Facebook page, and one of us would make contact. We'd ring you or call and collect it. If we could get them all in the next few days, and then it's getting people to come to the auction on Sunday afternoon and buy is our final push now. We need people to buy all these different lots.
Okay, and I suppose I'm after giving out my number there enough. So
that'll do. No.
Somebody wants to send me a text or a message there, I'll make sure it gets in. It gets in as well. And as well as the auction, like hopefully it's just a one-off to try to get money in and to raise money for the centre. And like you said, Peter, and I know I've been involved in the centre myself here from the start, and it is really in the heart of the community, and it has washed its own face up to now. But like you say, like all the running costs are going up and up and up with energy bills and everything else. So if people can support in any way, but as well as the auction, you've set up a GoFundMe page.
That's right. That goes down here to the guys in Radio Castledermot. They've listeners all over the world, and we had a chat, and GoFundMe seemed to be the way for those people that weren't in the location to help out, and it's absolutely flying. It's my first time having anything to do with GoFundMe, and it's so simple. You just go onto the GoFundMe website, put in Castledermot in the search bar, and the community centre comes up. So, and I think the lads will share a link if as well. And anything big or small, we'll gladly take it.
Okay, so we're going to share that link out, folks, on our Facebook page, and I'm not sure whether Thomas can put it into the chat box. If he can, he will. Just keep an eye on it there, and but we'll definitely share the link out on our Facebook page. So, as well as the GoFundMe and as well as the auction, there's something else going to come back this year, which has been missing for the last few years due to COVID, and it's something that I know has kicked off Christmas in Castledermot for the many years since the centre opened. So the Christmas fair is returning, Peter. Can you tell our listeners a little bit about the Christmas fair? I know it's on Sunday the 4th of December, but if somebody wants to book a table, how they can go about it?
Yeah, well, the Christmas fair there, the last 2 years with COVID, we were lucky that Santi turned up those 2 years, and it was a drive-by experience. We're doing that again this year. It's proved very successful, and this is the first year, as I say, in 3 that we are back to the Christmas fair. So we're going to have the stalls in the centre itself on the Sunday, the 4th of December, that afternoon. You can book a stall through the reception here in the centre. They're filling up fast. We do have limited supply, as we're putting it all inside this year. We're not going with tents outside. So everybody is going to be inside in the nice and warm. And I think it's well over 50% full at the moment, and we're only in the start or middle of October. So if anybody has any interest in one of that, get on to reception here as soon as possible. And while we're on that, if there's anybody that can spare a couple of hours in the evening leading up to the 4th of December to help out decorating a couple of rooms, there's a lot of prep that goes into it, and we're not asking for people to attend monthly meetings or sign up for 12 months hardship. It's just a couple of hours the week leading up to it. It's actually a bit of crack, and as you say, it kicks off Christmas.
Yeah, it really does. It kicks off Christmas in Castledermot, and it has done since the centre opened. So Peter said it there, folks. If there's anybody out there that can give a bit of a helping hand on the week coming up to it, so it's on Sunday the 4th, so even the Thursday, Friday, Saturday, if anybody has a few minutes to spare, even if it's just an hour to spare one of the evenings or on the Saturday, if they get in touch with the centre here, get in touch with Peter or even myself, and we'd gladly do with the help. And I suppose you answered the question as well there, because a lot of the smaller people in the town would be wondering whether Santi is coming back and whether he's going to be in at the fair, or is he going to be back at the drive-through. So I think you said there, Peter, you're going to continue with the drive-through this year.
Yeah, well, we sent an email to Santi and he's to get back to us, but that's our plan, and I think the elves are on board with the drive-through as well.
Oh, very good, folks. So you heard it here first on Radio Castledermot, another exclusive, that Santi is coming back to Castledermot the weekend of the 3rd and 4th of December. So he'll be here for the drive-through again, and hopefully with the lifted restrictions, it can be a lot even more personal this year for all the children in Castledermot. And folks, I want to thank Peter for coming in, and I know I'm not going to be, I'll be shot if I don't ask him this question, because I know there's a lot of people out there, and I know I'm getting asked it every other day. So Peter, when's the shop in the garage opening again?
Well, hopefully there'll be about 5 ESB lorries around the town on Wednesday. The ESB are due on Wednesday to reconnect us, and hopefully Friday the 4th of November is opening day. So that's the plan as of this minute in time. And sorry, just to finish up there, there's loads of people, I don't get into thanking everybody for what happens here in the centre, but the Radio Castledermot and Perry and the CES scheme here, any of these things, they coordinate them. They're our people on the ground all day, every day. So I'd like to thank them. Okay, so a huge shout out to Perry here in the centre and all the CE scheme crew, and of course a huge shout out to Fuzzy and Leo, who help promote everything that happens here in the centre, and none of this could happen without the brains and the technology of the newly married man, Tomás O'Connell. And of course his lovely lady wife Aisling there, who's very patient with him. And okay, yeah, the link, folks, for the GoFundMe is in the chat box. So if you just click on that, you can donate to the GoFundMe page.
And like Peter said, you know, every cent that the centre gets is appreciated. And we have our prize, and we have our raffle, which is, of course, sponsored by O'Gorman Meats. So I know Fuzzy is after being busy in the background there, writing out all the answers, or all the correct answers, if I can say it right. So the prize, of course, is in conjunction with
O'Gorman Meats, your local winning butchers, serving the local community for generations, and proud to sponsor Radio Castledermot.
Okay, so we have all the answers here, and all the correct answers, and the winner of a O'Gorman Meats and Radio Castledermot polo shirt, like the one I'm wearing myself, is Anya Byrne. So Anya, if you could just text your size into me, it'd be great, and we'll get that prize to you during the week. So well done, and thank you everybody for listening. I want to thank my guests this evening, Sergeant Steve Mulqueen, Jim Finan, Mark Wall and Peter Behan. In the background, I want to thank John Fuzzy Kassan, who's been working hard there, and Tomas O'Connell, who's been flat out and is sweating here, because every time I mention something he's going Googling and pulling pictures and trying to pull stuff over as quick as we're talking about it. So thanks to the two guys, because I definitely wouldn't be able to be here without them. As when I came in this evening, Fuzzy was saying, you know, you just have to push this button and that button, and to me it was like flying an aeroplane. So I want to thank the lads, and just John is going to give me here now, because I'll make a mess of it if not, a list of all the shows that are coming up on Radio Castledermot. So don't forget that Wednesday, we have to Get Over the Hump with Leo, and that's from 7 o'clock to 10 o'clock. On Thursday, we have Throwback Thursday with Ger, and Ger is on from 7 o'clock to 9 o'clock. On Friday, we have what is now famous Fuzzy Country and Irish show with the legend who is Fuzzy, and that's from 7 o'clock to 10 o'clock. On Saturday is party night with Fuzzy and Leo, and that's from 7 to 10. And this Saturday night, the two boys are going to have a Halloween party, so God knows what they're going to come dressed up as. And then on Sunday, the auction is on, and our men on the hammer is the great Leo and Fuzzy. So that's from 3 o'clock. It's going to be live on Radio Castledermot, and hopefully we might be able to organise such a way, if you can't make it into the auction, that we might be able to organise some way where you can do the online betting or online purchasing. It's very easy for me to say that, because I'm not going to be around. So I'm going to leave that up to the lads. I'm going to be going around Dublin supporting my good lady wife, and I'll take this opportunity to wish her well as she takes on the Dublin Marathon on Sunday. So just before we finish, and we're going to finish this evening with a song from a local band, Good Question, and it's from their new album. And I'm going to play you out with that this evening. I'll be back here in 2 weeks' time. This is Radio Castledermot. I'm John Phelan. And sorry, I'm just after getting a message here. Sorry, before we finish up, the phone number for the community text alert is 086 44 74 071. So that's going up there in the chat box as well. So it's 086 447 4071. So that's if anybody wants to join the community alert text, just contact that number and they'll put you in the right direction, tell you what to do. Okay, so thanks again to everyone listening. This is Radio Castledermot, and we do talk about what matters, and we'll see you again in 2 weeks.